Hey, I'm ChristopherJMUA and welcome back to my channel. Unless you've never been here, of course, then welcome. I'm so glad you've stopped by because today we are reviewing the Melt Cosmetics Rust Palette. So if you want to know all the details about this palette, what its swatch is like, what it performs like during a first impressions, and what I think about it, then stay exactly where you are, keep doing exactly what you're doing, and keep on watching. Here's what the palette looks like close up. This palette is beautiful. That gorgeous rust-colored rust. The writing is just beautiful. That's really, really pretty. I wish that all of this, like all of the decay, as you might say, I wish it was all reflective and embossed like the word rust is, but that's okay. It's still really pretty. Now, I got this palette from Sephora. This was $58. And on the front, you see it has the name and the rust. And then on the back, it shows some of the ingredients as well as the directions, which says apply around eyes as desired. That is so funny to me. But it has the same rust pattern on the back as well. And then the description on Sephora's website says a palette with 10 bold pigmented shades in warm neutrals and treasured metallics. Ingredient callouts are free of parabens. This product is also vegan, cruelty-free, and gluten-free. And then what else you need to know. Open your eyes to a new era of rust. 10 essential shades of warm neutrals and treasured metallics that weather the test of time. Soft and rich hues for transitions and blending. Burnt browns for ultimate definition paired with earthy foils for eye-catching dimension. Now it looks like the palette is the same typeface. It's got the reflective embossed font and also the rust on the outside. Oh wow, that's actually textured this time. It's not on the unit carton, but it is on the component itself. And I think maybe it's also a little embossed as well. Yay, I got my wish. Then on the back, it has a bunch of rust and the Melt logo. This is actually my first ever Melt product, so I'm really excited. And then if we open her up, is there a protective sheet? Yes, there is a protective sheet. And here is the palette. These are actually really good sized pans. Very interesting color story. It does look like rust. And that like mustardy yellow is a really unique shade. I don't know that I have that in any other palette. Also, I tried my hardest, my absolute hardest to get the 420 collection from Melt. It was iconic. I wanted it so bad because it looked so beautiful. Just the whole collection looked really awesome. But apparently there were only 100 of them available, and I obviously missed out on that 100. However, they will be coming to either Beauty Bay or Beautylish next month, so we still might get that review, possibly. I'll let you know in May. Anyway, for now, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom you guys in, and we're gonna get started on swatches of this rust palette. Our first shade is the shade Classic. Then the shade Antique. Erode. Rubbish. The shade Tarnish. Rust. Redox. Mar. Ravage. And last, Rot 2. Okay, and that's it. That is the entire Melt Cosmetics Rust Palette swatches. And you know, as always, I'm gonna insert photos of the swatches. One with flash here. And one without flash here. And here's a close-up of the swatches. I gotta say, these shadows are some of the softest shadows I have ever swatched. Really some of the softest that I've ever felt. You know, sometimes whenever you get those palettes that have like a single shade in it, when it is just really softly packed and super powdery, think of that, but creamier in a way. That's what all of these feel like. Now, the Redox shimmer, Redox is very, very flaky, which it's kind of a double-edged sword. It's great because usually shades like that are super flaky, shimmer shades like that are super flaky, usually end up being very potent and very shimmery. Downside is they are usually really blowbacky, like they have a lot of fallout and a lot of pieces that come off of them. So I'm definitely glad that I decided to do eyes first, as I usually do, especially when reviewing a new palette. But I do feel like this is gonna be a palette that's gonna need to be done before your face makeup. 9 times out of 10, when I'm using more of a neutral tone palette or like a brown tone palette, neutral, brown, whatever, I usually do like to do my face makeup first, just because I can usually slap on a neutral look pretty quick and easy without a whole lot of trouble and fallout. But I feel like this one is gonna be a little different. So I'm gonna go ahead and prime my eyes with my P. Louise base in the shade Rumor 01 off camera, and we're gonna get started on an eye look.
I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. And I'm about to lose control, and I think I like it.
Okay, so this shade has been screaming at me since I first opened the palette. I'm gonna take this Morphe M535 big giant fluffy brush and start with the shade Erode. And I'm gonna take that everywhere on the outer corner edge. And currently, I'm not tapping off any of the excess that I'm picking up because I just want to pack on this color. I really like this color. I don't recall ever using any type of tone like this. Like I said earlier, it's like a mustard yellow. And I don't know that I've ever particularly been drawn to a mustard yellow, but I am today. Oh, it's so pigmented, but it's also really, really buildable. It starts off a little bit lighter and a little bit more subtle than mustard. Now I'm gonna use this Morphe M456 brush and go into the shade Antique. And with this shade, I'm gonna start by putting it right in the inner corner. Oh, that's very peachy. It's kind of an odd mix to me, having those two right beside each other. I almost feel like the peachy tone is kind of out of place in the palette. I don't know, maybe on the eye it kind of has a little bit more warmth than what I originally thought. I would like to soften all of the edges. You see kind of how I have this hard line around everything? I'm gonna take this Morphe M506 brush. It's just a smaller pointed blending brush. It's one of my favorites, especially for detail work. But I'm gonna go into the shade Classic, and I'm gonna use Classic as a blending shade. So I'm gonna start by applying the color right outside the edge of the other shade. So like right there, you see it looks like a inner corner highlight type glow. Apply it there. And then once the pigment's laid down, start using circular motions to blow out that hard line. That Classic shade is very banana-y. It's like a banana, very much so. I am now going to use the Morphe M433 and try to kind of deepen things up and make them a little more dingy and dingy by going into the shade Rubbish. Let's turn this eye look into Rubbish, shall we? Just gonna start with this right on the outer corner. That's pretty. It kind of disappears really quickly within the shade Erode because they are kind of close colors. Rubbish is just a little more olive than Erode is. There we go. Now it's starting to build up a little bit more. I'm pulling the shade all the way through to the inner corner. I think I'm gonna go for more of like a spotlight eye today. I think that might be fun, maybe, possibly. It's kind of interesting with this look because since I used Antique in the inner corner, it's got more of that peachy skin tone to it, and then the rust comes into play on the outer corner because it has more of like the yellowy olive tones to it. It's really interesting. It's different. Uh-oh, we've got a shedder. Oh, she's gonna stay up there. Next, we're gonna use the second Morphe M456, another wonderful brush. And this time, we're gonna use the shade Rust. It's funny because the Rust shade is almost really like a milk chocolate kind of color, just a little more yellow instead of red, like warm red. Oh, and it's like the moment I touch the brush into it, it just flicks off all onto the brush. But I bet if I tap it off, it all comes off. Oh no, it adheres to the brush really well. Okay, I betted wrong. And with this one, I'm just gonna start applying it into the crease and see what happens. Wow, that deepens things up very quickly. Whoa. And again, I'm gonna pull this all the way through to the inner corner. I'm actually going to just take some and put it right on the inner corner first. Well, second, that way I can pull it through from here over to here and connect them. I always find it really, really interesting whenever I start building up shadows on top of each other. Like at this point, I've gotten 1, 2, 3 shades built up in the crease. So I'm really just working on top of shadow right now, rather than applying directly to an eyeshadow base. So I always find it really interesting as to how a shadow is going to perform on top of another shadow versus on top of a base, because 9 times out of 10, a base is going to help a shadow be pigmented and potent and blend. But once you get into shadow on shadow performance, you really never know what's going to happen. A lot of the time, you just start getting a bunch of patchy blending because shadow can't perform on shadow. And then you can't add on any more base to make it sticky again, so you just run into the problem of trying to pack on more shadow, but then you end up tearing the shadow underneath it, and then it just gets worse and worse. And it's where you truly get to see if an eyeshadow palette is worth your money or not. That's when you really can tell, in my opinion. The pigment does have a lot of play in it as well, but to me, it's how they stack up. It's how they work once you really get in there with them. And so far, this palette's doing great. It is having a little bit of an issue building up in the inner corner, but I haven't gone in completely yet and built it up as much as it possibly can be built up, so I'm not gonna judge it yet. Just so far, it's doing great. Yeah, that's perfect. Something I'm noticing that's actually really great about this palette, or at least with these deeper tones, is that I have a lot more control with them than I do some other deeper tones that I've been working with recently. Sometimes when you work with deeper colors like this, whenever you start to blend them, they can take over the look really easily because they just start blending out too much and go too far. But it seems like with these, they diffuse enough as you blend them out that they don't take over the look. You have a lot more capability and control over the blending and the spread of the shadow, if that makes sense. And I'm really enjoying that because I can clearly see where each shade ends and begins, which is awesome. Now that Rust is built up in the crease enough, just to diffuse it even more, I'm gonna go back in with the M433 brush. Oh wait, what did I use? Oh yeah. And back into the shade of Rubbish again, and take a little bit more of the shade on the brush, tap it off, and just use this right in there with the shade of Rust and blend out the edges. They're not really even that harsh or anything. I just like a really blended look, as most of you know. Why do you think my lives are so long? Can you imagine how much blending I cut out of my videos? Can you imagine how much blending you don't have to watch? You're welcome. There is a reason why we are the blending beauties. I'm really loving this look. As far as I can recall, I've never made any kind of like a murky, grungy, dingy, yellowy look like this. Let's see what happens if we add some shimmer. I don't know if this is gonna work, but I wanna try it with a brush first, just to see what happens. So using this Morphe M166 brush, it's a big, giant, flat packing brush, or shader, whatever you wanna call it. Whatever name you wanna give it, that's fine. We're gonna go into the shade Ravage. Yep, we're gonna go there. We're gonna go really deep. Ooh, it picks up on the brush really nice. Like really nice. I'm gonna lay all of the brush in the pan though, so I don't just have it on the edge. Yeah, like all of it. And we're just gonna start applying and see what happens. Wow, that was very effective. Yay, okay. You go, Melt. That's very deep and dingy, and I'm liking it. It's not very shimmery though. I don't really remember the swatch though. I don't remember if it was extra shiny or not. Let's just build it up and we'll see. Ooh, it's so dark. I really like it. And since I'm doing more of a spotlight eye, it's gonna be perfect as like the background shimmer shade. Ooh, it picks up so well on this flat brush. Quite a bit of fallout for sure. It's building up a lot underneath my eye. It's making me look like a raccoon, but it's a beautiful shade. Okay, I got it built up, but I want to see what it looks like if I spray my brush. So I'm gonna use my Makeup Revolution Ice Diamond Makeup Fixing Spray and spray the Morphe M166 brush, then see what Ravage looks like. Well, I mean, it didn't really change anything, which is pretty awesome because that means the shadow by itself is just as shimmery and potent as it is with the liquid. Maybe I got a little bit more of a sheen than I did have, but I just don't think the shade is that much of a reflective shade anyway. I don't think it's meant to be that. Let's see what happens with my finger. Yeah, even on my finger, it's not really, it does have a reflect, but it's, I don't know, it's just not blinding. Well, I don't know, that looks pretty metallic on my finger. Huh, let's see. Okay, yeah. It is literally just as potent with the brush. There was no need to spray the brush or to go in with my finger. It's literally the same. At this point, I need to make the spotlight part of this spotlight eye. So I'm gonna use the Morphe M124 brush. It's pretty much the M166 brush, but a little teeny tiny version of it. A little baby version. And I'm gonna use the shade Tarnish, and I'm just gonna plop this right in the center of the eye. She cute. She cute. Not very blam, you know, but it's cute. Now, let me spray the brush again, because I want to see if this one will change. I feel like with this one being a little bit lighter, I'm pretty sure it is going to be more extreme being sprayed. Oh, wow, yeah, okay. Yeah, spraying this shade definitely changes things. Yes, very much. I really, really like that. Since we know spraying it changes things, let's see what my ring finger can do. Oh, yes. Wow, that is so pretty. It's a spotlight eye. Wow. Ooh, I love it, I love it, I love it. And it looks like rust. Wow, it's so pretty. I'm low-key obsessed with that color story that this has. Let's clean that up and see what it looks like. There's so much fallout, way more than I thought there was gonna be. I mean, I knew there was gonna be a lot, wow. But it's weird, it looks like it's all that dark shade, the Ravage shade. The Ravage shade has ravaged my under eyes. This is so fun. I love this. I have never ever been, I guess, drawn to colors like this or this type of color story. You guys know, you've seen my work. If you've been here before, you've seen my work. This is very different for me, and I'm really liking it. Now I do want to add just a little something to the look, mainly to emphasize my lash line. I'm gonna use this Dalton line definer brush. It's a super thin, flat brush, and I'm gonna go into the shade Rot 2. I wonder why it's Rot 2. Is there a Rot 1 that I don't know about? And this is almost a black shade. It's like a super, super dark brown. And I'm going to apply this just to the lash line. I'm kind of using it as sort of a liner situation. Now I do want to be slightly careful while doing this because since I have hooded lids, if I take this too high, what'll happen is it'll look like I just have a bunch of black shadow all over my lid or dark shadow on my lid when I have my eye open and I'm looking at you. So I wanted to take this fine brush and make this line so that it would just go along my lash line so that it wouldn't take over the entire look. And I'm very happy with it. I like that it's just a super fine line. You can still see all of my shimmer work, and it added just a little bit of definition on the lash line, and I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect. Okay, so now I need to go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other eye, and I'll go ahead and finish off my face makeup so that we can do the lower lash line together. And after we finish the lower lash line, that's when I will give my final thoughts on the Melt Cosmetics Rust palette. So give me just a second to duplicate the exact same thing on the other eye and finish off my face makeup, and I'll be right back. See you in just a second. Okay, wait, I lied. So I said that I was going to do the other eye and come back. But I noticed something. I just had to go to the bathroom before I was gonna continue. And I noticed that with my hooded lids, whenever I relax my eyes and I look straight ahead, my lid looks very disconnected from my crease and it looks extra hooded. And I don't like that. So I'm gonna fix that by taking this Morphe X Jeffree Star JS13 Bullet Crease Brush. And I'm gonna use the shade Mar. It's almost just as deep as Rot 2, but not quite, but it's still deeper than Rust. And I'm gonna use this shade right here on the outer corner. I'm not gonna take it all the way in. I'm gonna go about halfway, and I'm gonna pull this shade straight out into essentially a wing shape, right out here to the outer corner. And I'm gonna make sure that the line from this color shows when I have my eye open and relaxed looking forward. That way, it will look like my eyelid and my crease aren't disconnected and go together. I mean, you can already see what difference even just doing that made. It takes away a little bit of the hooded shape that exists within my eye, because unfortunately, there's not really any way to get rid of it. I have noticed though, that whenever I lose weight, my hood also loses weight. I need a hooded lid diet. But I guess fat is just stored in this little, I don't know what else to call it aside from hood, but I guess fat is stored in there. So whenever I lose fat, the hood gets smaller. Anyway, I digress. So now that I added that dark shade in there and filled it up to the point that I want it to be, I'm just gonna go back in with the M456 that I used in the shade Rust and go back in with Rust and just go lightly on the edge of the Mar shade just to blend it out so it's not such a hard line. As per usual, I mean, I do the same thing every time I add a new color, and there we go. Now, whenever I relax my eye and look forward, it looks so much better, so much better. And that's so funny to me that it's all just a play of light and dark and shading and pulling forward and highlighting. That's all it is. Change my eye shape just like that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go off camera and do the other eye and finish off my face makeup. So I will see you in just a moment. Again. And we're back with my face makeup and now done. Well, mostly. I didn't put any lipstick on because I forgot. So I'll do that at some point. But for now, we need to finish off the lower lash line. I feel like it's been so long since I've done anything in my lower lash line, I'm a little rusty. Get it? It's the Rust palette. Sorry, I apologize. I apologize. So I think for the lower lash line, I'm gonna use the Morphe M410 brush and go into the shade Rust yet again. And I'm just gonna start going right along my lash line and stamping this shade down. See, this isn't gonna be the main star of the show, but it is gonna be like the accent color. So I wanna be sure it's there enough to show up. So I just want it to be the closest thing to my lash line. Just like that. Oh, also, really quick, I almost forgot. I want to go in with the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil in the shade Whiskey. This is like a brown, but it's also like a red. Honestly, I think it's almost the shade Rust. I feel like it's very close. I mean, that is like the same color pretty much. Except it made my eye turn very red just then. Okay, waterline is covered, so now I can continue. Now that our lower lash line is rusty, I'm gonna go in with the Vintage Cosmetics Company brush. It's the Step 1 for the Money brush. It's just a more flat, diffused shader brush. And I'm gonna go into the shade Erode, again, the mustard yellow, and I'm just gonna blend out Rust with Erode. I'm going to erode the rust. And if this goes according to the plan that's inside my brain, this is gonna be really cool. Heck yeah, that is exactly what I wanted. I wanted it to be that deeper, warm brown right along my lash line and my waterline, almost make it look like it's all the same color, and then blown out with that yellow to be like it's rusting from the outside in. Ugh, I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. So like my laptop just decided that it needed to install an update randomly out of nowhere. I told it to do it tomorrow, not today, but it did it today. So I don't remember what I was doing. I think I was finishing off my lower lash line. Yes, okay. And also, I threw on some highlighter while I was gone because I realized I didn't have any on. I used the Fenty Beauty Kilowatt Highlighter in the shade Hustler Baby. I love this shade, by the way. It's like an icy yellow kind of tone, but I think there's also a little bit of pink in it, or at least based on how this looks, it's like a peachy pink. But I wanted to also use this flat-ish fluffy shader brush and put this on my brow bone. Because the Rust palette doesn't have like a lighter shimmer shade, it's all, well, the lightest one is like that goldish kind of tone. I figured this would maybe pair well with this. Oh yes, 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 yes. See, it has that like yellowy golden type sheen to it. Oh, it's so perfect for this. I'm so glad I used this. But really the only highlight that I could have used in that palette is a matte highlight, and I was really feeling a shimmer today. I really wanted some shimmer really bad, and now I've got it. Yay. And then let me blend out the edge. At this point, I just need to throw on a lipstick and I'm good. For lipstick, I chose the Fenty Beauty Mademoiselle Plush Matte Lipstick in the shade Single. I wonder what Taken looks like. And with the lipstick applied, that is the finished look. So, what do you guys think? I think when it comes to the Melt Cosmetics Rust palette, this is a very specific palette, in my opinion. I don't know that it gives you a whole lot of variety. You're not really gonna be able to create a specifically neutral look. Anything that you create is going to be a little on the yellowy olive side of things. I mean, you might be able to get away with throwing a chocolate brown in the crease and a dingy gold on the lid, but everything that you create with this palette is definitely going to resemble a Rust color story, a Rust theme, which makes so much sense for the palette. You just gotta know that going into it and looking at this palette because it's very specific. So when it comes to grungy, rusty tones, and I base it strictly on formula, definitely a wonderful, beautiful, high quality formula. 100%, no doubt. It swatched so beautifully and it performed really, really well, especially the shimmers. Oh, especially the shimmers. There's just something about this formula that is fantastic. They are so soft and creamy and buttery, and I cannot wait to try more Melt palettes. This palette is definitely the start of many more to come from this brand. I'm really excited to try more. Please let me know in the comments below if you've tried Melt and what you think about their palettes. Which one do you have? Which one would you recommend if you have? If you haven't, I recommend, for sure, recommend. Pick whatever color story or whatever theme you like. If you like Rust, go for Rust. If you like Rainbow, go for Rainbow. I know they have some very colorful palettes. If you like 420, go for the Smoke Sessions palette. I think that's gonna be my next one that I wanna try because I really like the greens that they have in there. Anyway guys, that's it from me for this video. I hope you enjoyed the review of the Melt Cosmetics Rust palette. If you did, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up because it does let me know that you like this content. It also lets YouTube know that you like this content. Also, if you like this look and you want to see more looks like them, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. My username is the same for everything, it's just ChristopherJMUA. And if you gain nothing out of this video, if you gain nothing out of any of my videos, please at least gain this, and that is to always remember and never forget that you are absolutely beautiful. And I love you guys. Bye.